and welcome to CEO.CA. My name is James Petham, and today I'm joined by Kit Mars. Kit is co-founder, president, and CEO of Western Alaska Minerals, and they trade on the TSXV under the ticker WAM. Kit, it's great to have you with us today.
Okay. Hey, thanks, James, for making the time so we can get together today.
Would love to kick off this conversation by talking about your Illinois Creek project in Central Alaska. Could you tell us a bit more about the geology of that project and what is Central Alaska like as an exploration district?
Okay. Sure, we can do that. The geology is fairly straightforward. We're in an area principally underlain with carbonate rocks and intruded by several different intrusives. And that gives us the carbonate replacement deposit that we're currently working on at Water Pump Creek. And more importantly, what's coming out in our studies this summer, and we highlighted in the news release that just came out today, is that it's just not one little deposit. This is a very large carbonate replacement mineralized system, and it ties everything together back to the original past operating mine at Illinois Creek, which is a gold silver mine, but that's the high temperature center, and about 7 kilometers away is the more cooler, more distal lead zinc silver, but much higher grade at Water Pump Creek. So that's probably enough geology for right now, but it's we can go back to that later if you wish.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I mean, let's talk about the news release you put out today. A summary of the work that's been done in 2023. You've been drilling at both the Water Pump Creek and the Last Hurrah target on the property. Could you tell us about what you discovered in both of those exploration programs?
Sure, they're really two different programs, though it's all one mineralized trend separated by a fault. So the first half of the season was really drilling, infill drilling, and step out drilling at Water Pump Creek. So we've been drilling now 2 years at Water Pump Creek. I have some excellent intercepts. The two of the best ones from this year are listed in the news release. 22 meters and 40 meters of mineralization. So the goal was to add enough drilling so we had a density that would allow us to come out with an inferred resource, hopefully in the first quarter of the year. So that was drilling next to known mineralization. So that's an important point here. Then after that, we shifted to about almost a kilometer to the south to the continuation of this Water Pump Creek structure. It's an area called the Last Hurrah area that Anaconda and Nova Gold did some drilling on 20 and 30, 40 years ago. And so the difference is this was exploration drilling. We know we're in a mineralized area, but we're doing drilling to find the high-grade mineralization. So we're really just getting started there. So one was infill drilling in a deposit, and the second half was really exploration drilling along the same trend.
And could you tell us a bit more, the results from those drill programs and maybe specifically the exploration program at the Last Hurrah target? What did you uncover and how did it advance your understanding of the system that's there?
At Last Hurrah, the goal there was to drill into the carbonate sequence and understand the stratigraphy, how deep the dolomite units that host mineralization are, and really look for vectors, exploration vectors tied to alteration. So there's a number of different ones. Sanding of the dolomite is a common alteration that's connected or tied to these carbonate replacement deposits. And then what we really discovered working with Dr. Peter McGaw, who's a longtime friend and technical advisor to the company, was what we put out in some prior news releases, and that's called barbecue rock. And that's when you are getting close to mineralization. You have these carbonate veins that come out from the mineralized area. And when you put a shortwave UV light on them, they light up like a barbecue. And so that is one of the vectors we use there. All the two different programs, we had about 5 holes, 1,706 meters of the infill drilling. And then as we moved south to the Water Pump Creek area, 9 holes, totaling about 3,400 meters. And so those 9 holes were exploration holes to give us the information so we can tie that to our geophysical program, which was also included in this news release. And that will give us, allow us to develop some good targeting for next season's drilling.
So you mentioned earlier in the interview that you've been working with Dr. Peter McGaw, and I've seen in the news that came out today the Stairstep model that you've published. Could you tell us a bit more about the context behind that and how it's advancing your understanding of the geology there?
Okay, well, thank that. That's a good point. What Peter's made famous with his work on carbonate replacement deposits is looking at the whole continuum from the intrusive copper skarn and then out to the more distal areas, which is the lead, zinc, silver. So Water Pump Creek is an example of the distal portion of these systems. We think that it's really analogous to a stair steps where Water Pump Creek is at the top of the carbonate section. As we move to the southwest into the last hurrah area, we're moving down into a lower section, the middle carbonate. And then going below the greenstone I mentioned earlier is the more proximal, the bottom of the stairs, and that would be the analogous to the Illinois Creek past producing mine and hopefully a major lead zinc silver deposit at our Warm Springs target. So it's really using that analogy and using that for exploration on when to drill deeper.
And let's talk about next season's drilling. Having undertaken two fairly distinct operations this year in terms of the two regions you've been drilling in, what does it look like for next year? Are you going to continue drilling at Last Hurrah? Are you going to have a broader program next year? What's in store for 2024?
We'll probably do go back and do maybe a little bit of drilling at Water Pump Creek, but more from a metallurgy standpoint. We'll have an inferred resource, hopefully, so we don't really have the need to do any more tighter drilling there. We have a very good idea of what we found. We will then have a hopefully with adequate funding a two-pronged program. We have 4 drills that the company owns that are on site. This year we utilized 2 of those. The fourth one's sort of a spare that we don't put into service all the time. We'll focus on the last hurrah trend, probably moving a couple, 2, 3, 500 meters farther south. So we'll have 1 or 2 drills working there. And then to the southwest in the direction of the Illinois Creek, the past producing gold mine, along what's called the Warm Springs Fault that was identified in our geophysical program this year. That's a little different geology. It's called the West Block versus the East Block where Water Pump Creek and Last Draw are. We'll be drilling through a greenstone. We have 2 drill holes that have gone through it in the past, so we know what it looks like. And beneath that is one of our most prospective targets called the Warm Springs target. And that we feel as we get closer to the source around the Illinois Creek mine, we hope to have larger tonnage deposits, and that would be the goal there. It's analogous to the Hermosa deposit in southern Arizona that South 32 made famous about 4 or 5 years ago by paying well over $1 billion for. Very similar kind of geology, similar target.
Sounds like there's lots of exciting plans for next year and lots of targets to keep an eye on. Just to close out, when retail investors, maybe some of the CEO.CA community are looking at Western Alaska, what should they be keeping in mind? What's the value proposition that sets you apart as a potential investment?
That's a very good question. There's several aspects to that. Number one, what's very unique is that although we're a junior exploration company, because of our many, many years working in the district, we've been able to assemble a very large land package, 73,000 US acres, just under 30,000 hectares. and that's all under our ownership. We don't have any other competition in the area. So we have a very large land position, no underlying royalties or payments there. And then the discovery at Water Pump Creek, it really set the market on end a couple of years ago because of the extremely high grade. Uh, Two of the holes this year listed in the first page of the news release that just shows some of that significant grade. There was a section of 493 gram silver, another of 729 gram silver. That's not silver equivalent. This is the actual silver grade. And on top of that, you have 20 plus percent combined lead zinc. So it's a very high grade. Ultimately, this would be a underground mine, would have a very small footprint that really helps from a disturbance standpoint, easier to get permitted, and also reduces the capital costs from a large low grade operation. You have a lot of tons, but you spend a lot of money to get those tons. So those are two of the points. I know I left out a couple others, but those are probably the key takeaways.
Well, thank you for clarifying those, and certainly some compelling reasons for prospective investors to take a look at Western Alaska. Kit, it's been great to catch up and to hear about what Western Alaska Minerals have been up to this year, and looking forward to 2024.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to 2024 as well. Hopefully, the markets will shine and be a little happier than they have in the past. And I think currently, when a retail investor takes a look at our stock, they'll realize that we're trading at a price similar to what we were before we discovered the last 2 years of high grade at Water Pump Creek. So a lot of value, I think, exists there.